Hello, I'm Bliznub and welcome to Building the Best. Today we're going to be looking at the Diriga Sentinel and its Volclock gun. Now the first thing I want to do is of course look at the Volclock, as this is the most important part of the Sentinel. And we see it's got 100 base electric damage, which is the highest base damage for Sentinel so far, and 25% status chance. And we're going to abuse the hell out of that. We can ignore its crit chance, as you can only boost this up to 50% unless you're willing to put critical delay on, but then we're talking about 4 crit mods for a crit build and it becomes very inefficient. And what we want to put on is Serration, Split Chamber, and bear with me now, we want to put on Stormbringer, Thermite rounds, Rime rounds, of course for blast damage, not radiation. That's not what I'm going for here. Malignant Force, so we can get blast corrosive, and finally high voltage over there. So we are getting 97.3% status chance and a ridiculous amount of blast and corrosive damage. Now of course I would love to form with this weapon once or maybe twice more, get possibly heavy caliber in there, or hellfire, possibly cryo rounds. But for now, possibly continuous misery actually, considering I'm going for a status chance build. But for now we're going to put on Hush, because that's all I have room for. So let's go to the Diriga Sentinel, and the first thing we're going to do is of course take a look at its 3 precepts, which are on the weapon already because I forgot to remove them. So let's try that again, shall we? First thing we're going to do is look at its 3 precepts, which are Arc Coil, which is a area of effect, it's a multi-enemy area of effect. It's sort of area of effect. It targets, I believe, up to 4 nearby enemies and has a chance to give you an electric proc and does a small amount of damage to them. It also has Electro Pulse, which we're going to put over here, which continuously zaps 1 nearby enemy. Let's swap those. Which continuously zaps 1 nearby enemy, which traps them in a stunned state, as it says. Now it does this, sort of. It continuously zaps the enemy, giving it a guaranteed stun, but there is a small pause between the stun procs, as the duration of electric stun is only a few seconds. And during that small pause between the stuns, the enemy can shoot you or cast abilities if it is a Xmas enemy. Now, the final precept is of course Calculated Shot, which, as it says, it charges a powerful shot. It doesn't. It fires just as fast as it can, as all Sentinels do, but this ability basically just gives the Sentinel the ability to fire. And as you rank it up, it increases the range at which it will fire up to a massive 70 meters. Now we're going to take that off for now, and I'll tell you why in a second. But what we want to do, of course, with a good Sentinel build is put Redirection on first, Guardian on second, the Calculated Shot, which isn't on, will be on third, then Electropulse, then Arc Coil. Let's get Animal Instinct on there for the massive utility, Vitality to boost its health up to useful levels, and let's stick on Sanctuary and Fired Up to finish off this build. Oh, I'd like to have 2, maybe 3 more Former on this to get another mod on, possibly Redirection, or, you know, max my Sanctuary maybe, as those mods are what's important on a Sentinel. Getting the utility and keeping your Sentinel alive, very essential. Now let's take this out and you'll see why I haven't put Calculated Shot on in just a second, as I'm taking this to series and I want to demonstrate the abilities this Sentinel has, and if it has Calculated Shot on, it's not going to get a chance to, as it will kill almost all enemies that come near before it can use its abilities on them. 1 second as we load in, and let's find an enemy real quick. And here we see that, believe it or not, is the multi-enemy shock that it's trying to use. And this is supposed to have a chance to stun, but frankly that chance is so tiny, it's pathetic. And I just got annoyed and flailed my weapon at them, because this Sentinel, its multi-enemy stun is awful. It truly is. It does barely any damage and the chance to stun is tiny. But here we can see the single target stun, locking this Elite Lancer very, very effectively whilst these rollers attack me, and keeping this Lancer stunned. But you can see every now and then, before I killed it, it does in fact break out of the stun and succeed in shooting me before the stun lock happens again. Now let's go back in and put calculated shot on to finish up this video, because I need to show you just what the Sentinel can do when it can fire. And it is truly a sight to behold. But I am going to take off not the Volt Clock, my apologies, on the Diriga. I'm going to take off Arc Coil, because I believe that Arc Coil is a waste on the Sentinel. Electropulse seems to be very effective for locking an enemy in a stunned state. If you're scanning that enemy, or if it's something like a bombard or a heavy gun that you can't deal with immediately, that is very effective. But Arc Coil, not so much. Let's put on calculated shot, and I'm going to go to the exact same mission, and you will see what the Sentinel can do when you allow it to fire. And you'll see how much damage the Volt Clock is doing. So, please leave a comment down below if you think my build is not quite what it should be, if you think it could be improved. I love hearing that, honestly. I want to improve all of my builds in Warframe to the best they possibly can be. But I think this one is pretty much on point. Because I am struggling to find enemies. My Diriga there being very obedient and not shooting enemies when I'm not detected by them. Which actually I didn't realize it would do. I believe that only happened on stealth frames, but it's good to learn these things. Let's draw a bit of attention. I went into a spy, of course, so that I don't get overwhelmed by bombards, but I'm finding them very underwhelmed by the amount of enemies I'm running up against, which is a little disappointing, but oh well. This Sentinel does absolutely ludicrous damage, and I've taken it to Tower 3 and 4 defenses and seen it do insane amounts, clearing half of a wave, even, if I'm just being lazy and letting it. And don't take that the wrong way. I don't mean to say that I am, you know, standing there and taking damage whilst the Sentinel is not doing anything. I mean to say that I'm not shooting the enemies, and before they can get to the pod, the Sentinel has killed them. So, I'm Bliznub. This is the Diriga Sentinel and the Volt Clock gun. Possibly room for improvement on the Sentinel, but the Sentinel's weapon is amazing, and I will be switching it over to all of my Sentinels just as soon as it's got enough former on it. Thank you for watching. Please do, as I say, leave a comment down below if you think something I've said is wrong, or if you have any suggestions. I love hearing them. Like and subscribe if you want to see more.